When Solgoose Productions sent out a tweet back in March looking for reviewers to cover a new NES Homebrew game titled Trophy, I naturally jumped at the chance and eagerly volunteered my services. Being a huge fan of the Nintendo Entertainment System since the 80s, the thought of playing a brand new game for the 30-plus-year-old console was definitely intriguing, and not having really dabbled too much with any NES Homebrew titles in the past, I figured this would be a great opportunity to get my feet wet into covering something brand spanking new. I was sent a free press review copy containing the near-complete and fully playable version of the game. I'll elaborate a bit further as we move along in this review. Trophy was programmed from the ground up by Gradual Games' Derek Andrews, utilizing 6502 assembly language. 6502? Isn't that the name of the old second guitarist from Dead Kennedys? Anyway, since the tender age of 12, Derek had envisioned a video game protagonist in the form of a robot who adorned a trophy-shaped head, starring in his very own 8-bit adventure. A tireless 3-year project helmed by Derek, with all of the game's music being composed by the man himself, in addition to Laurie Andrews spearheading the graphics department, Trophy has finally been brought to life, realizing a dream 20-plus years in the making. Beginning as a Kickstarter project, the monetary goal has been exceeded, and copies of Trophy are available for purchase with a release date slated for June 2020. Link in the description below. And great news! Trophy is playable on the Retron 5, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that it's the console that I used to capture all of my NES footage, so you can only imagine my excitement when I popped the card in and it fired right up. Hell yeah! Now let's dive into the game. Trophy begins with the Gradual Games turtle mascot leading into the title screen, complemented by a catchy intro tune. Hey, that's me! The final product will also include an opening cutscene, but as it is still undergoing some fine-tuning, it was omitted from the press review copy. Like Mega Man, Trophy begins with the option to choose from which world to begin your adventure from a total of 8. Also like Mega Man, you assume the role of a cutesy android, equipped with an arm that fires projectiles, who has the ability to jump, climb ladders, and just about anything else that the Blue Bomber can do as well. In fact, you could even call Trophy a love letter to Capcom's renowned run and gun franchise, as the game obviously pays homage to it in a multitude of ways. Cartoon-like enemy sprites inhabit this ambitious platformer, many of whom take influences straight from several of the baddies found throughout the Mega Man universe. If you're familiar with those games, you'll be able to recognize where some enemy patterns had originated from, along with their ability to annoyingly respawn when barely scrolling the screen away and then back to avoid certain hazards. Ah, 8-bit goodness. The stages all offer an eclectic range of unique environments, differing vastly from one another, while at the same time drawing inspiration from, you guessed it, Mega Man. This is certainly not a bad thing for the majority of the game, as the backgrounds offer rich and colorful backdrops to complement the enemies housed within. But at times, I did occasionally find myself dying, or causing myself some inconvenience by the inability to sometimes decipher floors from background graphics when identical color palettes were used in conjunction. Not that big a deal, as I just sum it up to archetypal trial and error, and yeah, there's quite a bit of it in Trophy, which is not at all uncommon for an 8-bit platformer. At the end of each stage, you are greeted by an enormous boss, which is definitely one of the big selling points for Trophy. The gigantic sprites are absolutely gorgeous, with my favorite being the giant seahorse at the end of the sea level. The patterns for some of these end guardians were fairly simple to figure out, while others, the complete opposite. I about gave birth to a litter of kittens fighting this magnet boss. Good God, man! Until I got his attacks down, he was easily the most frustrating one of the game. And that's a trend that I seem to notice in this homebrew title: inconsistent difficulty. While I found some stages to be fairly challenging, others were an absolute breeze, with me sometimes finishing them on my very first attempt. Some levels, like the low-gravity asteroid one, were loaded with one-hit kills, while other stages, such as the train, allowed for you to take routes that would bypass a good number of obstacles that would otherwise impede your path to the end. Trophy also affords you with a total of 4 lives whenever you begin or continue, and is extremely generous with checkpoints, making some of the stages a tad too easy in my opinion. While I can appreciate not wanting to make the game ridiculously difficult, I feel that this was an area that should have shamelessly aped Mega Man a bit more. Basically, every time you scroll the screen as shown here, you create a new checkpoint to restart after death. And speaking of scrolling the screen, it sometimes drove me nuts how easily you could move when jumping at the top, resulting in enemies respawning on your descent. Arrgh! And then there were times when the screen wouldn't scroll properly at all, causing me to get stuck and then die. Hopefully that's just a kink that can be worked out. I was also able to take advantage of some levels where I could jump to the top, off screen, to take shortcuts where there had just in the previous area before been ceilings or walls. Despite some of these quirks, the level design for the most part is very well done, and the icing on the cake comes in the form of hidden areas where Trophy can locate items to augment his strengths. Health-wise anyway. Finding hearts stowed away in certain stages increases our robot protagonist's life meter, allowing for more damage to be absorbed before sending Trophy to the junkyard. There's also a weapon upgrade, which I have dubbed as Fool's Gold, because it's really not an upgrade at all. By locating this item, Trophy ditches his blue cosmetics in favor of a gold C-3PO look,
This is madness.
increasing the size of the projectiles fired from his hand. The problem with this, though, is that not only do these projectiles deal the same amount of damage as the default blue ones, they also fire at a decreased rate, allowing for only 2 shots at a time versus Blue Trophy's 3. I reached out to the development team and was assured that Gold Trophy should also fire 3 shots at a time, while confirming that yes, the damage dished out is the same as the default weapon, with the advantage being the larger size of projectiles. Sounds like this is something that will be tweaked before the final product is released. I was also told that a second special weapon is planned on making it into the final cut as well, which is great news, as I feel the lack of special weapons is one of Trophy's most glaring faults. I'll be honest here, when I first played Trophy, it felt like a game trying way too hard to be Mega Man, minus the quintessential elements that make the Blue Bomber series so appealing. But the more that I played it, and the more that I learned the stages and just got playing better, I found myself having a lot of fun and was eager to jump right back into Trophy. Damn if the game didn't grow on me. Even the music, which is obviously a nod to Mega Man as well, I found to be a bit ho-hum at first, but soon found myself humming the songs long after I had finished playing. There's some really catchy stuff in here. Trophy isn't too long of a game, with only one final stage succeeding the initial 8, and also offers a password feature allowing you to pick right up from where you left off. There are many tropes borrowed from Mega Man that this game really excels at, such as item drops from enemies like 1-ups, and responsive controls. I mean, they are tight. Trophy can't crouch either. Didn't these robot building masterminds ever think to give these buckets of bolts bendable appendages?
Are you by chance a pleasure model?
The main thing that I feel is missing is the lack of unique secondary weapons, and maybe the fact that the end bosses don't have an energy meter. Some of these take a long time and numerous shots to kill, so it would be nice to know exactly how much pain you're inflicting onto these gargantuan automatons. But meh, I'm probably just being a little nitpicky about that one. Comparing Trophy to a AAA title from yesteryear would probably be a bit unfair, considering that the majority had a professional development team to conceive such games, but as an indie one practically constructed by a one-man gang, I'd have to say that this game is really impressive. I'd be damn proud of it had I released anything even remotely close. It's a quality platformer, no doubt, with attractive visuals and really smooth animation. I mean, check out Trophy's running sprite. That's a thing of beauty. While I don't think it could ever fill Mega Man's shoes, and let's face it, that would be a Herculean task in its own right, Trophy stands tall as a homebrew game, and if you're a fan, you owe it to yourself to play this one.